Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Thursday morning, the 11th of September. Yesterday I did a live stream about missing Lily and Jack Sullivan from Lansdowne Station in Nova Scotia. The title was Lily and Jack Sullivan, the unpopular opinion. I believe that the unpopular opinion in Lily and Jack's case is that they wandered away. I think there's an awful lot of people who think that at least one of the caregivers who were on the property the day that Lily and Jack disappeared, May the 2nd of this year, has something to do with their disappearance. As I said in that live stream, I've been conflicted in that case since day one. They could easily have wandered away, absolutely could have, but there's just certain things that conflict me. I can't hang my hat on any one theory and say, that's number one. That's what most likely happened to Lily and Jack. I just can't do it. Nothing has been ruled out in my head. Look, and I'm not an investigator. And although we've had the release of some RCMP documents, it still doesn't give us the full picture about Lily and Jack's case. And the most recent document that has been released is almost 2 months old. So there's that. In this video, we're going to do the same thing and talk about the unpopular opinion in the case of missing Sebastian Rogers, then 15, was last seen at his home when he went to bed on the 25th of February 2024. So it's over 18 months now that Sebastian has been missing. And I definitely say on social media that the unpopular opinion is that Sebastian walked away. And there's an awful lot of people on social media. Well, there's two camps. And if you've been following the case, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's one camp that thinks that Seth Rogers is wonderful, Seth being Sebastian's biological dad, wanting answers, and there's a lot of people supporting Seth. But then on the opposite side of that, you've got some people who are supporting Sebastian's mother and his stepdad, Katie and Chris Proudfoot. Awful lot of people who think that Katie did Sebastian in some way, or he didn't make it home from their dinner at the Texas Roadhouse. As far as we know, Sebastian did make it home. There's no reason to believe that he didn't. And certainly the recent FBI update from just a few days ago, it gives us a little bit of new information. But in this case, there's been a real lack of communication from the cops. We're going to talk about that. Let's go. Before we get into that, can I just ask, you know what I'm going to say, if you watch my videos regularly, trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year. I think I can do it with your help. So if you're not yet subscribed, please do so. Help me get to 100k. There's nothing in it for me except YouTube sends a silver play button plaque for my wall. It's completely free at your end and it would look great on my wall. Alright, without further ado, let's get into this case. Now, from day one in Sebastian's case, I have had a number one theory that Sebastian, at age 15, even though he had autism and a chromosomal abnormality, which gave him some challenges in life, specifically to do with social skills. He's 15, he's got some independence, or at least wants some independence. There's no reason why you can't imagine Sebastian going out of his own accord. It's a completely different situation because of Sebastian's age than Lily and Jack's case. Sebastian is a teenager, has his own mind. His parents didn't know at the time, but we do know from the dispatch audio that Sebastian did wander around his neighbourhood. Nothing wrong with that, and we know that he did. His parents didn't know at the time, but neighbours knew, just didn't tell Katie and Chris that that's what he was doing. We know he was being left alone. We know that sometimes when he was at Seth's and Seth had to work, Sebastian would be on his own all night. Sebastian was trusted to stay on his own all night and put himself to bed. He could have been going out every night for all his parents knew. And just this particular night, he never returned home. But it is an unpopular opinion. I think it's the most likely You can't exclude the possibility of him maybe meeting someone online or in his local community and meeting up with them and then being abducted or being murdered. You can't discount that at all. But he did walk away. And I think there is evidence that he did walk away. I think there is, to do with the bloodhound that tracked Sebastian's scent in the very location where there was a shadowy figure. Could that be Sebastian? Just 8 hours before. That's at the top of Kelling Lane, near the construction site, where the Sumner County police dog tracked an original scent and dove right into the pond. Even from day one, I just couldn't see any other explanation being the most likely, honestly. But it is an unpopular opinion. Now, the FBI release was a surprise. The TBI has remained incredibly close-lipped, and all we've heard from the TBI is from their newsroom. They haven't updated this now for over 6 months, but they do have a questions and answers section and have explained what areas were searched in the initial stages. They explain what technology had been investigated, the security video from homes and businesses and cell phones, all been checked. What was going on in the neighbourhood at the time, everyday tips and leads are investigated, so I guess they continue to do so. But it's not a great deal of information for an 18-month long investigation. The last update being 2/25/25. The release of that FBI document did surprise me. The FBI remained terribly tight-lipped, but for whatever reason felt the need to release a little bit of information, which is good. Now, at night, creative with the truth, lack of intelligence agency. I know I snipe at them and I slag them off because, look, they're working on behalf of Seth Rogers, and in my opinion, I think they're cruel. In my opinion, I think they are giving Seth false hope. I think Seth is full of false hope. And you could hear it in the recent interview that he did with the news less than 2 weeks ago. So just listen to this.
I want answers. Where's my son?
This father's love keeps his efforts to find his son going. Sebastian Rogers went missing in February of 2024.
I've got a lot of memories of my son, but I'm not done making memories, and that's the point.
During the first few weeks, there were massive search efforts looking for the autistic teen, but as time passed, they stopped. Now his dad, Seth Rogers, feels frustrated with law enforcement. He says they're not doing enough.
Nobody's been arrested, and my son hasn't been found.
That's why he's standing outside the Sumner County Sheriff's Office.
So I can look at that window, so I can see them if they come out.
Joined by other supporters.
I am part of Team Sebastian. I just want answers. The community deserves to have answers.
The community does deserve to have answers, but Sumner County Sheriff's Office, they can't create answers when there aren't any. Can they? That said, as I said yesterday in the case of Lily and Jack, if they've got reason to believe that Sebastian is deceased, then don't they have a duty to attempt to recover his body? And it's the same argument that I had with myself yesterday in Lily and Jack's case, that you understand that, it's not the only case that a particular county or province has to deal with. It's certainly not for the lack of an initial amount of searching. But they stopped very quickly.
We could have some flurries tomorrow, and the storms, so the wet, and you lose body temperature 30 times faster when you're wet than when you're dry in the air or in water. And so we're concerned about that and the chance that we could have flurries tomorrow and those dropping temperatures. So we're continuing to work with drones and FLIR. And we've actually utilized tactical teams, SWAT teams, the county ERT, and night vision that our operators have, and they've been in the field for many hours at nighttime.
Once they believe that the person who's missing is deceased, and they're not rescuing a live person who might be lying out there injured, then they pack up and go home, and they just wait for tips to come in. I guess they have to stop at some point. But case after case, in my opinion, they stopped too soon. And I think cases could be resolved if they didn't stop too soon. I understand that I'm not the one with the purse strings. I understand that they've got other cases. I understand that they can't make exceptions of those that make the media. I get all that. Right? You don't need to point that out in the comments for anybody who might be thinking that. However, case after case after case after case, you get either a lackluster search, hardly any searching at all, or, when it's a kid, you get an all-out effort for a few days, and then they think, oh, well, the kid's dead, that's it, we're going home, and we'll just wait for tips to come in. And that's what's happened in this case, I believe. Now, at night, as I said, I jibe at them, I do snipe at them, but I actually agree with this comment that they released a couple of days ago. Now, they've released this redacted transcript of a March 2024 conference call, and it seems to be between the parents. We don't know which parents, because, in my opinion, too much has been redacted to make any kind of sense of it. I understand why they have to redact some information, but you just can't follow it. It's just too redacted. So I don't know why they've released it when it just can't be followed. The main points that they say here, though, I do actually agree with. And again, it's not just this case. There is a pattern amongst law enforcement in my country, as well as in the US, and obviously with Lillian Jack's case, we've also seen it in Canada, of the cops really being reactive rather than proactive once a case goes beyond that first few days. It's like, we'll do a rescue mission, but if there's no one alive to rescue, then that's it. We're just going to wait for tips, and we're going to hope that at some point in the future, someone comes across some bones. That seems to be the standard thing. Now, we know that Seth Rogers has had a problem with Sumner County Sheriff's Office since the beginning, so I assume that the person that they're talking about here who's cussing out the officials in the case was Seth. I don't know, because Chris has also got a temper. I don't know, but this document exposes what has become a pattern. From the very first week of Sebastian's disappearance, lead detectives failed to call parents back and ignored tipsters. Everyday citizens trying to share leads that could have mattered. 18 months later, the same indifference continues to hang over this case. In the call, participants openly described the vacuum left by investigators. Parents cussed out county officials, demanded coordination, and pointed to law enforcement's limited canvassing. They were left chasing tips, contacting Border Patrol, and even mobilising motorcyclists and community groups. Steps families should never have been forced to take. I agree. I do agree with that. That families shouldn't have to step in when the cops aren't doing enough. They did canvass that immediate neighbourhood. They got surveillance video. But if they don't do a wide enough reach, when the reason to believe that someone has walked away, if they don't extend that, especially when it's a 15-year-old who could have walked miles before his mother even knew that he was missing. They don't go far enough out. The transcript also shows frustration with false leads and rumour mills, which drain time and diverted focus. One participant warns, false information leads to false allegations. Yet with detectives absent and unresponsive, misinformation filled the gap. Again, I have to agree with that. That when law enforcement go quiet, the rumour mill just runs rampant, especially in cases that have become popular in the media. I say this again and again. Cynthia Lee, who I have no idea who she is, says, this transcript is proof that from week one, the people sworn to protect Sebastian couldn't even return a phone call. Parents begged, tipsters tried, and silence was the answer. 18 months later, that silence is still louder than action. Sebastian deserves better than detectives who vanish faster than the child they're supposed to find. At night's rolling release protocol will continue to strip away the excuses and lay bare the failures that kept Sebastian from being found. Every record, every transcript, every redaction released is another reminder. A missing child cannot wait on a call that never comes. Yeah, they can't. The reason why I agree with this, even though I can't make no sense of this heavily redacted document, I agree with the sentiment. That doesn't mean to say that I'm on Ann Knight's side from now on. I'll still continue to jibe at them. I still believe that they're being unfair to Seth. I do believe that they're giving him false hope. I really do believe that they're giving him false hope. The chance of Sebastian being alive is very, very, very slim. And although I understand that Seth does want to keep the thought that Sebastian is alive because it's a self-protective mechanism, I understand that. I absolutely do. And I have sympathy with him for that. But the people who are telling him that Sebastian's alive, they're doing him a disservice, honestly. He's very vulnerable. He needs to grieve. He really needs to grieve. And while there's no answers, I understand how difficult that is. And this is why we can't let situations like this rest. Case after case. Whether it's missing children, whether it's missing adults, it doesn't matter what country it's in. It just happens again and again and again. I don't know what the answer is. You know, when, counties say that they don't have the budget, I get it. I do. But I think volunteers, trained volunteers stepping into the breach and law enforcement assisting with, things like search warrants, but having people out there, boots on the ground, I think is the only answer. Who's out there looking for Sebastian right now? Who's out there right now looking for him? Anyone? No. Just like there's no one out there right now looking for Lily and Jack. No one out there right now looking for Summer. I can rhyme off case after case after case where no one is out there looking. The rumour mill runs rampant, but there's just an inertia. I'm sorry, there is. Let me know your thoughts though in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.